Good evening, everyone. Good evening to all speakerpreneurs, and welcome to the day 3 of the Speakerpreneur program. Please send me a big hi in the chat box. And especially if you can hear me and see me clearly, please send me a big hi in the chat box so that I know that you can all hear me and see me as well. Right, so welcome to the Speakerpreneur program, day 3, everyone. I hope it's all going well for you all so far. And we've been able to, come up to your level of expectations. We're not even halfway through. So that's what the journey is all about, to be able to explore. The best is yet to come, remember. So we are really going to be exploring the best parts of the program, which is between today, tomorrow, and day after. And we really hope that, all of you who've invested your time, energy, and money would be able to take away loads and loads of value out of this program. Hi to everyone out there. So Rashmi, Dinesh, Shiv, Sumit, so good to see you all out. I hope that you're all feeling comfortable now in the room and you've all been able to get some value out of this program so far. But as I said, we're not even halfway through. So this is how the journey will proceed. And now you're all acquainted with the entire process of it. Just a one note on, observation there. Many of you haven't been able to complete your activities for day 1 and day 2. So I would please request you all to please go ahead and complete your activity for day 1 and day 2, because it's very important for me to find out, because we assess your add, subtract, multiply, and divide towards the end of day 5 and day 2, which is about your niche, your message that you want to send out. We want to be very clear, with our understanding, so that we're able to give you the best solutions to become a speakerpreneur on that. Okay, so make sure that you go ahead, if you haven't been able to complete your activity for day 1 and day 2, that you go ahead and complete that as well. We have a very interesting activity coming up for day 3, in which you're actually going to be required to post your voice recordings for the same, which I'm going to be speaking about a bit further into the entire day 3 agenda. Okay, so to start off with, I think now most of us are getting into the room in the first 3 minutes of the program. So much in time, let's get started without any further delay onto what we need to share on day 3. So allow me to share my screen and please confirm to me on that as well. Yes, I understand, Rajiv, that the chat is going to be closed up at 10 p.m., 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. whenever we open, so that we want to make sure that it's this group is not getting into and disturbing into anybody's personal life out there. So we have kept up the time limit till 10 p.m. If you think that it's becoming slightly difficult to be able to cope up in that time duration, please send me a request. We can always extend that duration during the work timings the next day. Is something that we have been taking care of with our previous batches, so far. So we can definitely take care of that as well. So yes, so it was done at 9:30. No, it was done at 10 p.m. But yeah, so make sure if you're not able to do it, we will still open it the next day still. That's something that we can take care of it in the next session, right? So let's get started with day 3. Can I get one excited in the chat box? Can I get one excited in the chat box for day 3? There is lots of interesting magic mantras and techniques and tips and tricks which are going to flow out of, this box today. So I need to see that level of excitement with all of you out there. Thank you so much to each one of you out there for sending me. And remember, you've forgotten, how is it that you respond to me on the chat box with the letter in the end, which means excited, which means D's in the end, to be able to keep up the energy flowing into this group. So then without any further delay, let's get started onto day 3. What we're going to be doing today, we are going to be speaking about lots of interesting things today, which is the 3 golden rules, which I have already committed to you when you saw the Facebook ad, when you saw the timeline on the WhatsApp group. We spoke about that. What are those 3 golden rules for speaking is something that I'm going to be speaking about in detail today. How do you create a master speaker presence for online and offline? How do you do that? Gopika, it can't be done in a single day, I know. But how about if I'm going to go across and share with you the blueprints which you can just straight away use and pick that up and apply it for online and for offline presence. If you're able to, if you would be able to perfect those blueprints in itself right now, you would be able to do justice to this entire program and the time that you have invested here. Let me assure you of that. So that's what we are going to be finding out today as well. And then towards the end of it, I'm going to be speaking to you about your first act, which is going to be your activity for effective feedback. So I need to see each one of you out there participating towards your first act, whether you're going to be coming up live or not, but you need to still be a part of your first act, and we will make sure that each one of you goes out there and participates in these activities today, right? So that's what we will be discovering today. So just to be able to set the groundwork for everyone who's been there or who was not there in the last 2 days. So the whole idea of today, where we are on this journey, is that we've first been able to clear out and remove the misconceptions and fears related to the mindset of speaking. So it's not something which is an alien and we will not be able to imbibe. It's not something which is out of the box and we will not be able to imbibe. That's exactly what we learned on the mindset day, on day one, that it's very, very easy to be able to remove your apprehensions and fears and be able to create that mindset to become a powerful speaker. It's something that we learned up on day one. On day two, we were able to proceed onto it to explain you about that how is it that you can identify and that power of your expertise, your skill, what is that power that you have as a speaker, your niche, your message, that we wanted to identify with the help of several examples that we spoke about, so that you're able to work on your present status and being able to master that skill as a speaker in your life today. Now, today we are going to be speaking about that whatever message that you have, if you have that mindset as a speaker, now you are ready to be able to apply, some techniques to be able to understand how is it that you can best present yourself in the most effective manner possible. That's exactly what we're going to be doing up today. So let's get started with that right away. So on the first note of that, as I said, and I had explained out to each one of you yesterday, which was on mastering your speaker presence. So when we say mastering your speaker presence, powerful inside and outside. Inside means that each one of us, we will only feel confident when we have a message that we feel passionate about. So even if we have a presentation that we need to give and present it to our colleagues, even if, we have a message that we need to present it to our client. So it is our line of thoughts. What is it that we have in our mind on the basis of which people are likely to get affected for the same? What is it that we have in our mind is what we are going to be sharing here. Now, that is how we say that the moment the message is clear, you will be able to identify that you're feeling more confident about your message. And the moment you want to be, powerful outside, which means that how do you go out there and deliver your piece of content? How do you go out there and, project yourself as a powerful speaker? That's when we call it as a powerful inside and outside there. So let's go out there to identify that what are those attributes, what are those techniques, what are those tips and tricks that we can pick up. That is something that the master speakers are able to adopt. And what is it that we can adopt simply to be able to, change across our style of speaking on that note. So let's get straight into that. The 3 golden rules that I want you to be able to write down big and bold on your mobile or on your notepad that you have right in front of you, or if you do not have any of that, write into your mindset. When I say that you need to present yourself as a powerful speaker, the first thing that we need to know is how much have you really prepared yourself towards that entire game. If you've been able to prepare yourself, I can tell you that as a speaker, the chances of you being able to increase your confidence and be able to reduce your fear is going to be way more. It's going to be way more. Planning takes up a big amount of resource in terms of increasing your confidence. And many people I've seen who do not pay a lot of attention to planning bit of it. And they say, we want to go out, and be more natural at it. But only if it comes to you naturally. Not everybody is naturally a great speaker at it. It comes to you with a lot of practice. So we call the first golden rule as what is it that goes into planning, thereby goes into structuring. That is, how do you structure your entire content? We will be speaking about these in detail here. How do you go about structuring your entire content? And then you need to go out there and deliver it. As simple as it may sound, let me assure you, these have, actually been like a magic formula in which I have been able to accommodate myself even when I was presenting myself in front of thousands of people. So there was this situation where I was put across that I had to speak at, one of the biggest stadiums in Delhi, which is the Tyagaraja Stadium, if anybody's aware of. And there was a huge concert happening up there. And I was informed about it only one day in advance. One day, you can imagine. And the reason was that, of course, there was, some big, mishappening that happened. And of course, the main compere who had to come was not able to, run the entire show. Fortunately, I was able to get that stage and I was asked to prepare for an entire program which was supposed to be running in the form of a full concert with Badshah on that night for an entire duration of more than 6 hours. So you can imagine 4 p.m. in the afternoon till almost about 11, 12 at night. And I was the sole comparer for the same. All that I had to put down together in terms of, joining up the pieces of the puzzle. And I still remember it precisely, how precisely I was able to create the planning right from welcoming and every member, acknowledging the presence of my audience, preparing my entire script word by word literally, and then preparing my entire sequence, how the entire program is going to flow from one end to another. And it wasn't that, I was completely a pro at it, because this happened in the year 2017. And it wasn't something that came to me naturally. So that was something that I felt, and that stadium has huge loads of capacity. And if you've not prepared for it, let me tell you, there is absolutely no chance that you will be able to, have those gleaming lights into your face and be able to do it well. Is where, I was able to really realize that as a speaker, all we really need to do is that whether it's, a speech in front of about 5 people, whether it's in front of about 50,000 people, all we really need to put into together, as the pieces of puzzle are that how much have you been able to create your planning bit, then structuring the entire content, giving it an entire structure. I'm going to be speaking about that in detail now, and then going ahead and delivering your content on the same. So we call this as a very, very powerful approach as the PSD approach, the planning, structuring, and delivering approach. And I want each one of you out there to come on, give me a PSD approach the moment, if you've been able to understand what is planning, structuring, and delivering, give it out to me in the chat box as well, because we are not going to be speaking about it as a full form. We only refer to it as the PSD approach. Let me see that coming up here in the chat box out there. Come on, in capitals there. Yes. The first bit of it, Gopika, it's very easier said than done that, I want to speak. So there can be different situations. Let's say, a situation is I have to go out there and speak in front of, a set of my colleagues, and I have to present my line of thoughts there. That's one situation. Another situation is that, I need to present myself in front of a webinar where I need to convince people about the idea that I'm selling, something similar that I'm doing. Another situation could be I'm on a public platform, literally a stage where I need to go out there and present in front of the people. So there are different situations that we are looking at that can actually be involved in the same planning stage. Now look at the beauty, how beautifully it says, Abraham Lincoln says that if I had 6 hours to chop down a tree, I'm going to spend the first 4 hours sharpening the axe, exactly like the way I was explaining you with the help of my own personal incident and how is it that I had been able to do it for myself. I want each one of you to understand the entire, the consciousness that we need to realize that if we need to deliver, we will only be able to reach there when we've put in a lot of effort and a lot of stress onto your planning and structuring bit of it. Now, how is it that I do it? Let me share that with each one of you, and I'm sure that it's going to give you a lot of food for thought when you need to go out there and deliver. So this is how, I have seen that it works for me every single time. So if I need to be able to go out there and present on whatever topics that I need to do. So if this is an incident that I'm presenting myself in an HR seminar and I'm comparing the entire show, I need to find out that what is that entire show all about. I'm going to collect lots of research, make up my own notes on it, and then create, rather than creating it word by word, I would go out there and create my 5 to 7 keywords. Now, if this conference is talking about how do you digitize, the HR industry, the HR world, and this entire topic of the conference was, digitization of the HR world, is where I needed to speak to, to the audience about. And of course, there were a panel of speakers who were coming across. I needed to create a story in my mind that the way this conference is going to proceed is going to be that they are wanting the audience to understand that HR has always been looked at as a traditional form, of a line of work. But that also is becoming absolutely digitized, and it needs to move across from a traditional form of learning, sitting across and hiring people. That is also becoming highly digitized, and how you need to transfer the mindset from traditional HR to the modern way of looking at HR. Creating a story in your mind is what we need to do when we need to go out there and deliver our act onto any topic. Now, that is just one of the examples, the way I was explaining out to you. There can be several other ways of doing it. Now, what can be those several other ways? Let me look at that. Now, let's say if I had to go across to an educational institution and I had to give across, as a guest speaker, deliver an act on how to motivate students for stress during this COVID time. So this is how I had researched about these entire titles of COVID. And I said, I need to divide this because this is exactly how I felt it. Now, what I did was I created my notes, of course, by, finding out from various resources, creating my various sources. And then I said, I will speak about, 5 to 7 areas, which means March 22nd, the moment I'm thinking about it as a sequence in my mind, the day, it was announced, then lockdown 1.0, which was about 21 days, then lockdown 2.0 for about 15 days, then lockdown 3.0, and then unlock 1.0, unlock 2.0. So at the moment I did that, I said, I'm going to create that in the form of a story in my mind and use it with the help of my own real life examples. And how is it that I have felt? Because I've realized that nobody has felt, something very, very drastically, very different. So everybody felt, doomed down, depressed, pulled back, loss of money, loss of job, loss of work is how, everybody went through during that entire phase. Is what we need to create a story in my mind. The point that we're really wanting you all to arrive at, that public speaking, when people say that, Gopika, I end up forgetting a lot of times. Now, that is one of the biggest problems that people face. Now, how is it that you will be able to, tackle that problem with yourself? Is simple. So when you are in your planning stage, you need to put down 5 to 7 keywords so that you're able to create a story from a start to an end. So let's say if I have to speak to you as an audience, on a speakerpreneur program, how is it that I'm going to go ahead doing that? I will say that I need to create a story where the first day we're talking about fears and misconceptions, then we're identifying their inspirational message on day 2. Then we're, actually grooming them, training them on the techniques and tips and tricks for speaking in front of the audience, then actually looking at their performance on day 4 and on day 5, being able to progress them into a journey where they can create multiple opportunities for themselves for work. Did you just witness what happened? What just happened was that I have created a story in my mind rather than remembering it. That I need to be able to transform my audience from a mindset of a speaker only to a mindset of a speakerpreneur. Is how I need to be able to build up that story. Because what happens is that as a speaker, we may end up forgetting the bullet points. We may end up forgetting sentences. We may end up forgetting the content. Then we will go out there and we want to present it in front of people. But what we will not forget is a story. Because stories, people do not forget. When you are narrating it in the form of a story is when you will also not forget. Is how we need to go out there and start putting our planning into place. So that is something which is one of the biggest takeaways, to be able to understand that whatever piece of narration, even if it is about 5 minutes, and if I was to say that tomorrow, please go ahead and give me a hero introduction about yourself from past, present, and future. Now, all you need to do for tomorrow is that it's going to be your show time tomorrow. For past, present, and future, you need to be able to create a story out of it. That what is it that you have witnessed in the past, and how is it that you've been able to evolve from there, and what is it that your present is, and then moving it into the future. That's the reason when we look at it into three different areas, the whole idea of doing this is that it creates a sequence in your mind. And sequence is something that you will be able to say it out with absolute ease. So exactly like that, I'm wanting each one of you to pick up any topic, any presentation, any message, any niche that you have, and put that down in the form of a sequence, exactly like the way that we've been discussing it with several examples here. If that is making sense to all of you, can I get one MS in the chat box? If this planning bit is making sense for all of you, can I get one MS in the chat box? Let me see that. Thank you so much, Shahir, Soman, all of you up there, so that I know that we're all together to understand that as a speaker, it's a lot to do with what is the message that I want to send. The more passionate I am about sending a message, the more planned I am about sending a message and creating a story in my mind. Imagine we're already solving more than half the problems. I'm passionate about a message and I'm creating an entire story. So, you know, that entire fear of me forgetting the content, it completely goes away, because we are actually going to flow, you know, from a point A to point B, and we'll also, you know, let people travel on that. Now, let me give you some more tips and tricks on the same. The second part of PSD, which is structuring bit of it. That is, how do you go ahead and structure your content on the same? How do you go ahead and structure your content? Now, for the structuring bit, this is something that you're going to absolutely love, and I want each one of you to use it for your showtime activity tomorrow. So your showtime activity, where you're going to be giving across a powerful introduction, it must incorporate, when you're going to be doing your planning and creating that story of past, present, future, then do this bit, which is create an opening, create a middle, and create a closing. And this is something which is a rule that you can apply to any act that you can put up together and be able to present it in front of the people. That's how simple it is. Now, what do we mean by this? It means that we need to have, if you all remember it clearly, we need to be able to give across about 10 to 20%, 10 to 20% into opening, 10 to 20% into closing, and then 60 to 80% into the middle content. 60 to 80%. Now, does that make sense? Now, the entire process of delivering is becoming even simpler. How, Gopika? I mean, you haven't revealed that. I am going to be revealing that, because this is exactly where you will get that breather. This is exactly where your hands will stop shivering. This is exactly where you will be able to generate more confidence and be able to inspire more people. This is exactly where you will inspire people and tell them that speaking is not a big thing. It's about how you go ahead and do your planning, structuring, and delivering. You will be in a position the moment you actually get to know about these techniques. And I know that you've all witnessed it, but you've never realized the essence of opening, middle, and closing. So let me give you a notion on that. Now, what do we mean by that? So whenever you have a piece of content, so let's say you have your powerful introduction. So that's something that is going to be your first showtime tomorrow with me, where you're going to be presenting yourself for about 1.5 minutes to about 2 minutes in front of everyone, on which I'm going to be giving you across my feedback and recommendations as well. Now, how is it that you can structure it in your mind? Divide this into 3 sections, which is opening, middle, and closing. Now, opening bit of it in your entire introduction should occupy almost about 15 seconds of it. Closing should occupy at least, I'm saying, about 15 seconds of it. How much are you left with? If you're going to be speaking for just about 1 minute, you're only left with 30 seconds. If you're going to be speaking for about, almost about 1.5 minutes, you're only left with real time, 1 minute of real speaking on your introduction. Then what do you do the rest of the time? This is what you need to do. So there are some powerful techniques that you can develop. Now, those techniques will help you to get yourself relaxed. Now, what could be those techniques? Let's look at that right here. So right now, I'm opening up those techniques that you can use at any point where you go across speaking in front of people with your presentation, with your idea, with your message, but use them in your opening and in your closing technique, and absolutely powerful. So now let's say that if I'm saying that you need to be able to use up a story. Now, how do you use up a story? So if I'm going to be giving you my introduction and I want to say that myself, I am Dr. Gopika Kumar, I'm a life coach, I'm an author, I'm an image consultant. If that's how I'm going to start my introduction, it again becomes very cliche, it becomes very traditional. But if I want to be able to imbibe a certain concept into your mind, now there is something that I need to do other than just reading out or narrating my introduction. Now, how would I do that? I need to have some flavor. I need to put across some variety into my content, and that's exactly what you see in variety. Now, the first variety that I'm giving you an example can be in the form of a story. Now, let's say, I really believe that I need to be able to inspire people's lives by first of all letting them out of their self-limitations, by letting them out of their self-beliefs so that they do not get caught up there and they're able to move up ahead and they're able to progress further. If that's my philosophy, so I can start with a very powerful story and I say that, so hello everyone. Have you ever heard of a narration of a big, huge elephant being tied up to a rope? And the moment, anybody wishes to ask his master of that elephant, that why do you think you've been able to tie up such a huge elephant creature just to a small little rope there? Don't you think that he can easily free himself off? And that is something that is completely in his capacity. Now, do you know what is it that the master says to anybody who puts across that question? Because that's one of the most favorite images used for self-belief. The master says, of course he can. He can break through that small little rope which has been tied up to, to his leg out there. But what happens is that when he was a baby elephant, and the moment we had tied up, him to a rope, then he could not break through it because he did not have the potential, the capacity, and the power to break through it. But then as he kept growing, he was conditioned to the same belief that he will not be able to break out of it. And then he never even tried. He stopped to even think about it on those lines, that I will be able to break through this, which is something absolutely in my control. And today, when he's even a big creature up there, he's still not able to do that. So my participants, I welcome you back to the story. Do you think that anywhere out there in your life, you're also caught up into a situation where you're tied up to your own self-limitations? If you think you do, here is what a life coach can do for you. So here I am Dr. Gopika Kumar, a life coach, communication skills trainer, so on and so forth. So I can continue on that note. Now, what is it that I have done? I have created some interest to be able to exude that excitement from the audience on the power of using an opening with a story. Now, as I said, stories we don't forget, and they're way easier to be able to narrate. So you can pick up your own styles to be able to use up when you want to go out there and present. Now, let's say, you have a message, you need to be able, you need to go out there and speak on the pandemic. You need to go out there and speak on information technology. You can use up any of these styles that I'm going to help you, to start thinking about it and use that in your opening, in your closing, and you can always have multiple different styles. So you can have either a story and you can have a quotation in the end. So if I would want to end my introduction and I will say, so that was Dr. Gopika Kumar for all of you. And there is something that I completely believe in. And this is something that I would, all of you want, I would want you all to be able to hear that. And this is how it goes. If everybody can do it, so can you. But if you can do it, doesn't matter if anybody else can. So be it, image it, create it, your personal power as a speaker out there. Thank you so much. Now that can be my ending. That can be my end to my entire introduction. And in between, I have my introduction that I'm Dr. Gopika Kumar, what is my professional, what is my education, what is my experience, what are my strengths, is something that you can highlight the way you want it to be. But what it has done right now is that you've actually divided your piece of body of knowledge and given it more flavor. And that is exactly what audience needs to hear. That is exactly what they want to be able to, feel comfortable with. And this is something which will also give you that leverage, because it's easier to remember stories. Now, if you're thinking at this point that, Gopika, it's very difficult for me to remember quotations, it's very difficult for me to even remember a story, then you can start picking up something that you can easily read as well. So let's say, you go up there and you want to actually, give an entire lecture on, let's say, cancer, and how is it that, you're going to inspire people to be able to get themselves treated on time. And you can pick up an interesting, poetry on that and be able to read that. And that is something that you can, do by looking at the paper. But the whole idea of having an opening activity, which is going to be there, or closing activity, or having both, is what really enthralls that audience, is what really, brings in that kind of excitement to your audience level. Now, there is a very interesting poetry, by Amitabh Bachchan, which he uses, Kab Tak Rokoge. Now, this is a poetry which is in the form of a music video, and I use it so many times when I'm actually conducting, much of my extended workshops, because that one video is extending to almost about 7 to 8 minutes, is something that you can start using. That, do you want to use a poetry? Do you want to use a video? You can use up different ways. Now, let's say, you've gone across and you need to present it to your clients. You need to present it to your colleagues. How about starting it in the form of a video or a nicer piece of content? Now, what it's going to give you as a speaker, it's going to give you the time to breathe. It's going to give you the time to look back at the audience with a lot more confidence. And that is exactly all you need. All we need as a speaker, and the fear that we have in our hearts, is the ability to be able to look at our audience and be able to speak with them at confidence. And how do we do that? When we are able to get that time to look at them. Before we can look at them, we feel that they're looking at us, in a much more significant way. And that is where we lose out on our confidence. Now, these activities will actually give you food for thought, that how is it that you can get yourself some time. Now, let me give you, some more ideas out there. Now, let's say if I was to, pick up an activity out there. So there is, a very, very interesting activity that I pick up with my participants, and we do, something related with a positive mental attitude. So I say, we are going to start off this session by asking you some very, very significant questions. Would you please want to answer that? I'm going to roll across a dice, which is right here. And whatever number rolls across, you need to give me an answer, what is pertaining to that number. And if the number 6 comes, I say, would you please tell me that something nice that you recently did for someone? Would you please go ahead and tell me that? Now, the moment you start asking questions to people, to audience, in the form of a Q&A, in the form of an activity, you yourself get that confidence to be able to speak to them. That's the whole idea. The whole idea is that you make yourself comfortable, so that the moment you're comfortable, you're going to be able to make your audience feel comfortable. And that is exactly how your entire speaking style will become way more powerful. Then there is a very interesting activity that, I conduct most of the times, when it's most of the times physical workshops. And I end up, telling them that, why don't you go ahead and massage the shoulders of the person on your left-hand side, massage the shoulders of the person on the right-hand side, and come on now, go ahead and give a hug to either of your sides. What is it that does? It brings in that humor. It brings in, that aspect where you're able to break the ice with your, with your participants. And that's exactly what you need to do when you are in that role of, running an activity. So that's the whole idea of running these different suggestions that I'm giving you in your opening and closing. What people get caught up is that if I have asked you to be able to go ahead and introduce yourself, or tell me about your life story, past, present, and future, you get caught up in starting right from the beginning, from past to present to future. You can use it up in your own style, use a quotation, use a poetry, use a joke, use an activity. Is something that you can use to be able to engage. The idea of a speaker is that it's not so much about me, it is about letting the other person in front be able to take full advantage of that situation. So if you've been enjoying it so far in terms of the various techniques, now let me tell you an absolutely simple technique. If you think these were difficult, how many of you felt it was difficult? How many of you felt it was difficult? Yeah, Dinesh, which example did you want? Yeah, if you can just, highlight that for me as well. How many of you felt difficult? If you think these are simple, absolutely simple, doable, achievable techniques, come on, write that down in the chat box as well. I'm going to give you an absolutely simple technique right now, which we refer to as a poll, right? So I think activities you've been able to get across your idea, Beena. So there are different activities that you can pick up in live sessions, in virtual sessions. You can pick up different activities. So I pick up, in a online session, the kind of activities I pick up is I usually ask people to be able to create something out of a paper and be able to keep it with themselves. Is something that, so you need to come up and be able to brainstorm your own way, because it completely depends on what is your topic and how would you want to be able to engage people. So there's a very interesting activity that I do, and I, because I know that everybody knows how to do it, and I tell them that why don't you go ahead and give me an aeroplane in the next 60 seconds. And there you go around, creating your aeroplane. And I see that now look at that aeroplane and give it a flight. Do you think you will be able to give it a flight that it can go as far as possible? Now, there are different ideas to do it. So it completely depends on what is your topic and what is your niche and how would you want to involve your audience out there. Then there is a very, very powerful technique that I want you all to be able to use, which we refer to as a poll technique, which is asking questions to the audience. Now, how can you do that? Now, what happens is when we go across on stage, we are so nervous that we forget the matter, right? Now, this is a very, very common problem, which is amongst all of us. Now, this is a very simple solution to it. All you need to do is when you are facing, and let's say you're giving a presentation in front of your people, or let's say, you just meeting up a few set of new people who are going to be meant for your business official purposes. Now, what do you do? How do you start the conversation? This is what you can do. Start with a poll. Start with asking your questions. So instead of you delivering, put them into a situation where they need to deliver to you. So you need to ask them questions. So let's say if I am in a workshop, I will ask my audience as the first question, and I've just entered across onto the stage, whether it is virtual or physical, and I will say, so how many of you want to become a 6-figure speaker? What is the answer I'm expected to get? I am expected to get that people will raise up their hand on it. You need to ask an enrolling question. Now that's simple. Now you need to frame up 2 questions, 2 to 3 maximum 2 to 3. Or then I can ask, go ahead and ask, how many of you would like to absolutely overcome your shyness and your stage fright and be able to conquer that stage in the next 5 days? How many people do you think will raise their hands? Almost everyone will be able to do that. So you need to frame up your questions. What is the power of a poll, a questioning technique? The moment people give you that affirmation, they give you that answer, you yourself get empowered because you feel that, yes, people are listening to me, they are responding to me, and you feel empowered and you're able to get a lot of energy and confidence. And that's exactly what we needed and intended to do, is what you need to go across and do it. Now, you can apply this technique at any situation, whether you want to be a professional speaker or you want to go out there and engage yourself into a conversation. You don't know how to start with interesting 2 questions. So what brings you here, today at this get together? So, what do you think, that where is it that we are headed in terms of the COVID situation? Start with any 2-3 questions, something which is common between the 2 parties, so that you're able to engage and put the other party into a state of speaking rather than you speaking at that very time. And then you can pick it up from right that point. Is something that many people use. It's a powerful technique, and we call that as an enrolling question technique, where you give people the questions so that they're completely involved in your questions and they're wanting to give you the answer for it, right? Now that is something that you can use. You can use a news fact, which means pick up a research fact, because people who are very technical and deal only with numbers, they would only relate to facts. So let's say if I was to say that Wikipedia is saying 75% of people are facing the problem of public speaking. It's not only me, it's not just Dr. Gopika Kumar. So the moment I say that and I start on that note, it becomes just way more powerful because it's a research fact. So that kind of a research fact also brings in a lot of volume, a lot of authority in your work, in your content, is what you can go around doing it. Or if you think, you're good at shairi, I mean, I'm not, so I won't really be able to do it. So it's everybody else's style on how do you want to bring about, and you can bring about a shairi, you can bring about your life story and be able to, deal that and tell that across to your participants. So that is how we say that we go around doing structuring to our participants. Did you love structuring, guys? If you did, can you give me across some liked it, loved it, whatever you want to write in the chat box so that I know all of you are with me on that. All of you are with me on that. And the third technique that I'm going to give you out, which is again a very, very, very powerful technique out there, which is your words, music, and dance, which is your words, music, and dance. Now, what does this mean? So now we need to remember that as a speaker, we have put across our planning into place. We have used up our techniques of opening, middle, and closing. How am I going to do that? Now what we need to put across is words, music, and dance. Now this is something that, came across to me when I was looking at several music and music videos. Now what happens, when is it that a music video becomes a big hit? If I was to ask you guys, when does it become a big hit? When the lyrics of that music piece are good, when the lyrics, the words are good, when the music is good and we are able to, listen and feel the emotions. And then, of course, when the music video is beautiful in itself and we are able to relate to that music video, is when we say that the entire music video makes sense and it gets, 1 million views, 2 million views, 10 million views, I don't know, and there's absolutely no end to it. So exactly like that, we say, is how a speaker is supposed to be able to do the enactment. Now, how is it that you need to do that? So if you can remember this and put this into your mind today, and it's a very, very powerful technique. So when you go out there, you need to tell yourself, I need to have my content through opening, middle, and closing, which means that there is a structure in my mind. I need to speak on that structure with a lot of emotions, music, emotions, my emotions, that I have that passion. I want to send out that message. So let's say, if I'm a confidence coach, I have my content in place, opening, middle, and closing. I need to have my music, my emotions with which I'm going to narrate that out to you for storytelling. Exactly. So let's say right now my content is speaker and speakerpreneur. And what are my emotions in letting you all out know that message? And along with it, the third element for a speaker is his body language. That how are your hand movements? What is your eye contact? What are your expression, facial expressions, your smile on it, your energy, your posture, your entire movement that you have, your gestures, all of that together comprises your dance. So if I was to speak to you that you're hello speakerpreneur, so welcome to this program, and I'm going to be speaking to you about speakerpreneur. Can you see it right now? It's looking absolutely, something which is on a mute mode. I myself can't resist to be able to use up my body language to be able to express my content, my emotions to you all. Now that's exactly how we need to put that in place, which is my voice with the help of my content, with my emotion, which is my voice and voice modulations, and be able to use up my several actions. Now, how will that come into all of that will come together, Gopika? My question is that all of that will come together. As I said, if you do go back to day 2, where I said, when it is important for you to send out that message and you put your planning, structuring, and delivering into place, when your words, music, and dance will start to make sense, is when you will be able. So the next time you are in front of people, all you need to tell yourselves is that I need to be able to present myself in a words, music, and dance. I need to have both my content, my emotions in place, and then I need to have my actions. How is it that people, cross their arms? How is it that people speak without hand movements? How is it that people, speak without facial expressions? I don't understand all of that. So that is something, the moment you're able to understand words, music, and dance, or as I call it as a WMD approach, will you be able to give yourself absolutely a shout out on the WMD activity out there? Was that good enough, guys? WMD. Can you give me a WMD in the chat box? Come on, shout out on the WMD in the chat box. So we've already had loads of techniques coming out your way in terms of your PSD, your opening, middle, and closing, and your WMD. Great. So some people are doing it absolutely wonderfully and being able to comply with that. That is not it today, guys. There are some blueprints that I'm going to be revealing out to you. So the next commitment that we've made out to you is that we will tell you how can you master your speaker presence in this short span of time with me for online and for offline. For online and for offline. So this is how it goes. For online and for offline, for both. And this is something that you will be able to use absolutely offhand by looking at it and, creating your own script on it. How many of you are really wanting to see what is that blueprint for online speaker and for offline speaker? How many of you? Absolutely simple. So at least in this space of time, even if you're able to get these, suggestions across, I'm sure you will be able to do a great job on it. Okay, so there you go, guys. So this is something that we call is for your offline presence, which is going to be your pitch, Now, how is it that, what is it that people are struggling really? People are struggling to get their ideas across. They're struggling that how is it that we tell people that we need to convince people about, to them about our ideas. Now, how do I do that? Now, this is exactly how you can prepare an entire pitch for the same. So I'm going to give you an example using my own, and just look at that so that you're able to understand this entire pitch. You can although use it for online presence also. I'm going to give you also an entire format for online presence as well. So if you need to use that, you will be able to use it in any place that you're, an idea, a product, a service, anything that you are selling across. The first point says, so have you ever felt that your hands are shivering and your throat becomes dry? Have you ever felt that you are the one who is wanting to send out a message to people, but you're just not being able to get yourself into the position as a speaker? Second, I have found out that 75% of people, third, 75% of people, as per Wikipedia, are facing the problem of public speaking and are not being able to overcome that fact and be able to reduce their fears. Fourth, there was this time when I myself used to face this kind of a situation for myself years back, and I exactly know how I was able to overcome this step by step for myself. Would you want to know that? This is your part of your story, and then you elaborate on your story. I'm not going to elaborate on my story right now. And then fifth point. So if that is something that resonates with you, today I want to show you how you can create yourself and be able to present yourself as a powerful speaker and go out there and make a mark for yourself in this territory. Join me on this journey together. What have I done? I have only picked up words from here and created an entire pitch. If you would notice now, in the first pointer out there, I have been able to address the pain points, the problems of my audience, and then been able to give them out the solutions using up my own story, and then telling you if I will be able to do it, you will be able to do it too. And I want to show you how is it that you can do it for yourself. It's something that we say you can absolutely pick up and be able to create and just pitch in and put in across your ideas so that you're able to come across with your pitch for the same. So I'm sure each one of you, as mentioned by you yesterday, in your niche areas, have your own areas of expertise, of your skill, of your sales, is something that you can apply this in. Now, for all those people who are here to be able to create a strong online presence, Gopika, I need to be able to do that. Now, this is something that you can do to create that video that you can create as a blueprint. Now, how do you create that video? How do you create that video where people are able to relate to your idea, where people are able to relate to your concept, and they're wanting to get hooked on to the message that you want to send out to? So we are all here to become powerful speakers. It only and only happens, remember guys, when you're able to address first of all the pain points, then take them to a situation of solution, that what is the solution that you're going to offer to them through your videos, and then take up a call to action. Now, this is how you can go ahead and create your videos for your YouTube, for your Facebook Live, Insta Live, for your own channel, or you want to create your own videos out there and be able to reach out to people, is how you can do this and absolutely copy this blueprint for the same. Now, how can you start? You can say, have you ever felt that you want to be able to overcome your shyness to awesomeness and be able to emerge as a confident speaker? Then I am Dr. Gopika Kumar, an author of Personal Power Equation, a soft skill expert, and a communication skills trainer. In this video, you will be able to learn how can you overcome your fears and misconceptions of your speaking attribute, of your public speaking. And at the end of this video, you would be able to conquer those fears and misconceptions and be able to position yourself on any stage for yourself. What I'm going to teach you in this entire video is the process where you can reduce your fears and increase your level of confidence. So make sure that you're able to stay yourself tuned in for the entire duration of the video. And yes, at the end, do not forget to like, comment, or share and join my Facebook group. This is Dr. Gopika Kumar signing off. Thank you so much. Can you just see, I just narrated out the entire video blueprint in front of you. Is how simply, so if you want to start creating your personal branding as a speaker, but you did not know till now that, how is it that you will be able to go out there and create that positioning for yourself? This is how simply you will be able to create that for yourself. So is that sounding good enough, guys, for all of you? Would you be able to go out there and create your blueprint for online and offline? Was it good enough? Come on. CTA is called to action, Rajiv. CTA is called to action. Would you all be able to create that blueprint for yourselves? Would you all be able to create that blueprint? Come on, give me a yes on that note. Would you all be able to create that blueprint for yourselves? Yes, great. So because what you need to now do is you need to be able to identify, if you were only informing so far, you need to be able to persuade people. If you were all informing so far, you need to start persuading people, inspiring people so that you're able to transform their lives. And the formats that I've just shared across with you in form of these blueprints, you will be able to transform and absolutely see, when people come back to you saying that, sir, ma'am, you've absolutely been able to, give me a new, a site to be able to look at the way of solving problems for myself is what you need to, do for yourself as a speaker. So here are the details for your first act. Let's get ready for the same. So your details for your first act that you need to go out there and present it to me in the form of a showtime activity tomorrow is right here. So what you need to do is come up with your name, family, skills, past to present, quick transition, and what is your mission. This entire thing can extend between a minute to about 2 minutes, but we do not want to make it extremely long. So remember to be able to apply techniques, which is planning, structuring, delivering, opening, middle, closing, words, music, and dance. And of course, you can pick up, the transition, the blueprints that I have already shared with you from the start till the end. That is something that you need to highlight the problems and then be able to introduce yourself on that. So that is your hero introduction, everyone. On that note, I'm just going to stop sharing of my screen and let me see. Come on, how many of you commit that you are interested to go out there for showtime tomorrow? All I need to see is that you need to absolutely be committed and go out there. I'm going to share my feedback and recommendations with each one of you out there myself. Yes? Interested? Yes, so make sure this interested, you need to put that down the moment I open up the chat group today, because as I said, we're going to be finalizing. So we've already got a few names yesterday. If you've already given your name, it's fine. But if you haven't given your name for your showtime activity, please remember to go ahead and do that and give us your names for the showtime activity tomorrow. So this is going to be an extensive activity where I will share about my personal recommendations to each one of you out there. Remember, each one of you can be prepared. We will keep up this slot between 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. It might extend a bit beyond that. So keep yourselves, available for this time duration, because I would like to, share across my feedback and recommendations with each one of you right here on this platform. Okay. So any questions on what we've been able to learn today? If you have any questions in the chat box, I would be more than glad to be able to take that up. Any questions from each one of you? So yes, I will not be sharing the recording, Sandeep, today. I would not be sharing the recording as I shared. So I'm really sorry, but yes, stay tuned in. There's lots to learn even, between days of today, tomorrow, and day after. So yes, what we have spoken about today was the bits on planning, structuring, and delivering, where we started from. Then we started on your techniques of opening, middle, and closing. And then we spoke about at the end towards your words, music, and dance with your blueprints that we have discussed with you, right? So that is what we were able to discuss out with you. How to be able to sound natural when presenting the content. So Umar, never ever, try and learn lines for yourself. Never engage yourself into learning sentences. So even when you're writing an introduction, and if you are presenting yourself tomorrow, then make sure that you're not, learning sentences. The moment we're going to be learning sentences, memorizing them, then that artificial, that mode of natural style will go away. Just keep it natural in terms of you need to have 5 to 7 keywords, as I said. So past to present to future. So 2 points from your past, from your professional, from your one experience, in your present, your experience, and one personal story you can put across there, in your future, in your mission, and your personal story you can put across there. So that's how you need to be able to frame an entire structure, so that you don't end up memorizing sentences, and then it will become more natural. When we do not frame sentences, the entire flow will, it's bound to be natural, because we don't know what we wrote. We never know, what we wrote. Right? So that was something that was for you guys. If any more questions coming up in the chat box, come on, let me see that. So can I get a thumbs up from each one of you on that? If there are no more questions, we will call it, quits for that. No slide sharing. I'm so sorry, Mukesh. There are no slide sharing. I'm absolutely fine. If you're taking up, snapshots, we are absolutely fine. I will be sharing about the activity, So sorry. Oh yes, a very important aspect for each one of you. A very important aspect. Each one of you, whether you're presenting tomorrow, you're not presenting tomorrow, please send us out your voice recordings. Your voice recordings of your introduction, so that I'm able to listen to it before you're able to actually share it in front of us live, okay, of the entire audience. So please share. And on your WhatsApp group, you already have a voice recorder button. So please share, record that 1-minute introduction that you are planning to share with us, tomorrow at 7 p.m. I'm going to be keeping up the group open for discussion between 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. tomorrow, so that you're also able to post across your hero introduction in the form of voice recordings. That will also give you enough incentive and benefit to be able to come out of your apprehensions and fears and be able to face us live on the stage tomorrow. Okay. So no, you can't share a slide tomorrow. No sharing of presentations. We really just want to see your style and your style of speaking. No sharing of slides tomorrow. Okay. So on that note, any more questions that we have? The WhatsApp group is going to be open up right now. In fact, I'm going to do it as we speak right now. And I'm going to be posting up the activity so that you can post up your answers for the same. So we need voice recordings from you. And if you haven't finished up your activity for day 1 and day 2, please remember to do that as well. Because as I said, everything is documented, and I'm going to be giving you a review. Even if you submitted one activity, your review is going to be shared at the end of day 5. Okay. So that I understand that where is it that you were, all coming from as a mindset, and how can we best help you on this chart together. So the WhatsApp group is open, and I'm going to be posting up the exercise there soon. So looking forward to seeing you all for the show time tomorrow. So start getting prepared and get some good rest for yourself. And I will see you at 7 p.m. sharp tomorrow. Thank you so much. Good night and take care.